The word was spoken by the mouth of the prophets. Let it be. Times of hard working and poverty of souls. The flesh is at a crossroads. Behind the walls of lies, vices of hearts, the human heart despises the truth. Doomed to misery, blind slaves, systems of hungry spawn. And among all this crowd, nuggets hide in empty apartments on the outskirts of cities, tormented by everyone and at all times, utter the word of life with pure lips. The weak string will sink into the deep of oppression, and after it, a new life will be reborn under the all-seeing eye of God, the Spirit of Truth.
I welcome you to the platform Movement to the Light. We'll not tell you how to act, how to think and what to do. We'll only give you access to information and how to dispose of it. Decide for yourself. And I want to say in advance that you should not look for justice, but you should look for yourself and your place in this world. Because in the world of manipulation and deception, it is difficult to find the right answers. There will also be no answers from our side, only keys will be given, so that you can independently participate in the assembly of the game called life. And today it's time for the 19th series. Dominance and competence. What is life? The system. What does the system give? Stability. What gives the system stability? Hierarchy. The above order has existed not for millions but for billions of years. This order is the experience of the Spirit of Truth. It is the basis of which the world stands. Man is a product of life, a product of spirit, a part of the Creator. A person is a unit built into a common system. The unit doesn't have the right to decide what the system should look like, but it has the right to develop it according to the order. The order of the system is based on hierarchy, which gives the system stability. Hierarchy is power. There is a dominant position. This power is real because it is based on competence, since competence comes from the knowledge of the whole. Power is the inheritance of the Spirit of Truth, but it is not the inheritance of man, because a person who thinks that he has power is ignorant, because he does the will of the evil ones. A person who fulfills the will of Spirit of Truth has no power, because he knows his place in the hierarchy. He knows that his destiny is competence, and any competence is knowledge of the whole, is knowledge of his inner world and his place in the external world. A unit strives to know itself, to find its place in the general system, if it has competence in knowing the whole. Without knowing the whole, the unit strives to change the world around it for the sake of the convenient and dominant position for itself. This unit is a marriage, because it separates itself from the whole, because it seeks to subordinate everything to itself that it can reach. This unit doesn't recognize the power of the Spirit of Truth, doesn't recognize hierarchy, undermining the stability of the entire system. This unit builds mental concepts of various kinds, making itself and other hostage to the ideologue. The truth comes from the Spirit, and it is He who dictates the rules of the game. A person is given only to fulfill the rules according to the order. This is a basis, which is not billions, but billions of the years old. Being born into this mortal world, a person is faced with a huge number of social rules and norms in the process of growing up. These norms are developed by society, so the whole system has stability. And the sustainability always each individual to develop, giving something to society and from himself. In general, this is exactly the kind of information you can hear from people who teach social studies. But in practice, everything is completely different than in a textbook, for the world is much more complicated than any, even the wisest book. Having lived on Earth for more than 30 years, I personally clearly see many trends in the development of society, many social orders and rules. Each society in each country they differ, because no one has cancelled the cultural factor. But what can be said for sure and with confidence is that there are general rules that are present in almost all, without exceptions, social formations. These rules also exist in our country. These rules determine the basis for the development of our society and are clearly visible if you look closely and almost invisible if you fill your head with various theoretical tricks. As you have already understood from the title of the program, today we will talk about the maturity of society, which is expressed in the competence of the citizen. Most often, for the statistics, the maturity of society is expressed in the presence of the citizen of documents on graduation from educational institution. If we look at the development of society from this angle, in general, this situation is very prosperous, since a huge number of people in our country have not only a secondary but also higher education, but as already mentioned in previous broadcasts, knowledge is only a potential force. The question is which people use this knowledge and for which goals. This is where the real abyss opens, which many don't want to notice. After all, the question is not how too smart a person is, but how mentally mature he is, cause the simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. Such a short saying and opens such a deep well. This well consists of wisdom and stupidity, of prudence and dishonor. As already mentioned in a previous broadcast, it is not so important what a person thinks and says. It is important what he feels and does work, because this determines the path of a person. But many people try not to notice this because it is more convenient and more comfortable. To have a clearer idea, I will add some facts to my story. The fact is that being born a person doesn't mean becoming one, because only the level of quality education will determine the level of a person's mental health when he becomes an adult. And if you look objectively at the level of development of the population, you can come to a quiet order, because people live more according to animal laws than human ones. This is determined by the level of their mental maturity, as my personal observations and the observations of my colleagues show. If you take the figures, then somewhere 19% of the male population and somewhere 19.9% of the female population live according to animal principles. These figures come from the level of mental health that these people have at the borderline level, and this level is an intermediate between the animal and the human principle. That is, for the proportion of the population, their limbic system is a dominant. To make it more clear what I'm talking about, let me remind you that the limbic system is responsible for human instincts. Their basis consists of three postulates. Out of a desire of a dominance, from the desire for satiety, from the desire of reproduction. That is, for the vast majority of the population, it is these desires dictated by the limbic system that will determine the motive of all actions. and there is no point I'm looking for logic there. All logic will be repaired to the animal principle. This is one side of the issue, but this side determines the entire agenda in the lives of the most people. As for a minority, the fate is unavoidable because somewhere up to 10% of the male and up to 0.1% is capable of the female population. Due to the various coincidence of raising parents by a successful combination of circumstances to grow financially above the borderline level and have an neurotic level of the psyche or even a healthy one. For many people, the neurocrates is already the main one is making decisions, and the limbic part obeys it. Of course, sometimes there are failures with a strong hormonal background, but in general, these people are able to live by human rules cause whoever seeks the law will be nourished by it, the hypocrite will find it a stumbling block. Here comes the most difficult but also the most important moment in the life of people who want to live like a human being. I have already said that an absolute minority of people are able to cross the boundary of the borderline level of the psyche, and several obstacles rise on the border of this boundary. First, the whole society will prevent a person from growing up, because the whole society living according to animal principles will pull a person to a bottom in order not to let him grow up. And secondly, if a person agrees to such conditions, then he is given all the opportunities to somehow settle in society. But if a person refuses to go in an even system with everyone, then he automatically passes into the category of rogue people. And this will not necessarily be some kind of repressive measures of influences, rather than a contrary, all his acquaintances will simply turn away from a person, because for them there are no more things in this person that would interest them. Because most people are interested in drama, not development. They are interested in creating problems from scratch, and after successfully solving them for years in a circle, rather than creating something productive and multiplying life, a person who has chosen the law will be left alone with himself, with his aspirations and desires. And what such a person will get the most sympathetic but absolutely hypocritical look and assessment from others. And then the question arises, what kind of law is this that a person choosing it will remain alone? Do other people not live according to the law? And the answer to this question, people who have well-developed abstract thinking, developed emotional intelligence can give, but the rest will not even understand what is being discussed. After all, the laws of human society are the laws of the psyche, and the laws of life are absolutely laws. They are not written in books, but they work. Regardless of what society think about it, thus a person who live exhaustively according to human laws will succeed in law, but a person who lives according to the laws of the life will know his real self, will know real life, and will get what he really needs. Cause the wise of heart will receive commandments, but a babbling fool will come to ruin. That is why at all times the wise men talk about the same thing, and the fools at all times argue about the same thing. For in the race of animal desires, no one wants to give way under the sun, no one wants to accept life as it is. Most people believe that he deserves a better life, and by the word better it means better than others. Just to be grateful for what they have, people do not know how, do not want, and are not going to. This is the thirst of dominance in all its glory. It generates competition, disputes, strifes, wars, And moreover, the level of intellectual education doesn't affect this in any way. On the contrary, the most dangerous people are those who have a very high level of intelligence with a very low level of emotion intelligence. Does this mean that good people are necessarily stupid people? No, it doesn't mean, but it means that wisdom is given to a person as a result of an effective life experience, where a person receives working skills and receives their justifications. But here there is one but very significant problem. A wise person doesn't try to deceive, doesn't try to make money and take a leading position, because his level of understanding of life already gives him such a status, gives him for his work, but doesn't give he needs this status in society, because the material status is more important to society. A status that can be demonstrated on paper and in regalia. This is one of the biggest illusions in which humanity is mired. After all, if you have a doctorate degree and you have a high status in scientific circles, this doesn't mean that your ideas and action will create the ground for the development of society in the direction of an increasing life. For often, as the practice of life shows, these people have a very high opinion of themselves. These people have imagined that life is subordinated to them, to their knowledge, that they are able to change life for the sake of their own social and political needs. These people are proud and of the highest level, because they are rebel against the rules of life, because when a man fully brings his way to ruin, his heart rages against the Lord. And if you show care and consider this issue more scrupulously, the majority of scientific circles are now focused on how to make a person's life more comfortable, how to make a person's life longer, how to make a person's life painless. But there is one very important question, and why? After all, happiness is the result of overcoming constructive difficulties, and all the impulses of people of science are aimed at talking a person away from overcoming difficulties, thereby making a person a professional consumer, making him a unit capable of living alone, with a full set of all benefits, for all a comfortable and but absolutely meaningless life. This is real marriage, because people reject the truth, reject life, reject the structures that have already created everything, and that everything that has been created already works and has order. People are ready to come up with overlooking concepts, foaming in the mouth, proving that I am a person and I have my own opinion on any occasions, not even understanding that it is placed primarily against him. That is why people who have understood the essence of life and were able to get acquainted with the structure that generated it no longer strive to prove something to someone, because it is useless. There is no sense in it, because every person at the end of life will receive exactly as much as he gave. If a person was a consumer giving garbage to the outside world, then at the end of his life he to turn into dust, which will nourish the soil for some time. But if a person understands that life is something unique and its multiplication is the main rule, then this person will not become dust, but will become light, and light never ends. It only changed shape thereby. People of light, having accepted life as it is, will have a continuation. Results: dominance is the destiny of the animal nature, competence is the destiny of the human principle. Society will always put pressure on people who want to reach a higher level of emotional intelligence. The ability to see life as it is, there is wisdom. The ability to see the structure that stands behind life, its rules, its wisdom. Wisdom always comes from the Lord and guides a person on a straight path. The straight path is light, and light will always have a continuation. And one last thing, remember, one series will not give an exhaustive answer to everything. We did this intentionally so that you would come to the conclusion that there is no one answer to everything, that the answer to everything lies in the answers to many questions. We'll analyze these questions in the following series, which will complement each other so that you have a complete picture. Because the whole, although it is a combination of many details, is not always identical to them. Like white light, although it is a combination of many shades, it is not shades intentionally. And in order to still see individual shades in white light, this will require making the right efforts. We'll finish this today. Peace be upon you and your home.